What's up YouTube fragrance family, Tommy with Studio Sense here. Welcome to another day and another video full of fragrance information. Today we're going to be talking about a very well-loved fragrance genre, and that is gourmand fragrances. What exactly is a gourmand fragrance? Gourmand fragrances, very simply, are any fragrance that contains notes that are edible. If you've got a fragrance that has blueberries in it, if you have a fragrance with peanut butter and jelly, it's an edible or gourmand fragrance. Of course, most men's fragrance will have like ginger or basil or coriander or something like that. Those are spices that are used to cook foods with, but that doesn't necessarily make that an edible or gourmand fragrance. Typically, gourmand fragrances kind of cant on the side of dessert type fragrances. So something that's going to be a little bit sweet, not always, but mostly sweet, dessert-like, delicious smelling, yummy, any adjective to describe something that's just very, very pleasant and that kind of makes your mouth water. That's going to be a gourmand fragrances. So when we come back, I'm going to show you my top 7 gourmand fragrances that are accessible, affordable, and fantastic for not just cold weather, but all seasons. That and more is coming your way, so stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. So today we're going to go gourmand. So let's go ahead and jump into my top 7 fragrances that are gourmand fragrances for men for all seasons. We're going to start with my top 7 and move on down to my number 1 gourmand fragrance for all seasons. And when I say all seasons, gourmand fragrances, yes, are typically for cooler weather, but these particular gourmand fragrances are excellent in any kind of weather except high heat, right? So except extremes, with the exception of extreme cold. You wouldn't necessarily want to wear these fragrances in extreme heat with the exception of a couple of them, but all of them are all season fragrances, and that's why we're diving into this list. And I want to familiarize you guys with these epic gourmand fragrances. Coming in at number 7 is a fragrance that I don't often talk about. It's in a very reputable line of fragrances by Ralph Lauren, the Polo line of fragrances, and it happens to be Polo Red the Eau de Parfum. Now, this isn't necessarily a traditional gourmand fragrance, but it does have a lot of cranberry, just like any citrus juice. And if you've ever celebrated the holiday of Thanksgiving, you've likely had cranberry in some form of dessert. Polo Red Eau de Parfum just makes the spectrum of gourmand. Not only do you have cranberry, but you also have red grapefruit, you got lavender, you've got elemi and benzoin, which are sweet resins. Apopanax is the fixative, some musk to give it a little bit of weight. And when I first smelled this, I didn't care for what I felt was a synthetic nature of the cranberry, but it has grown on me and I really enjoy it to this day. I think it's, again, just over the edge in the spectrum of edible or gourmand fragrances, and that's why it comes in at my number 7, Polo Red Eau de Parfum by Ralph Lauren. Coming in at number 6 of my all-season gourmand fragrances for men that I feel are epic is a fragrance by Azzaro in the trio of Solarissimo fragrances. It is Solarissimo Favignana. Favignana is an excellent combination of cedar, candied lemon, you've got rum, you've got a bit of amber, and though it's not listed as a note, I feel like there's a vanilla that brings it a bit of sweet warmth like tonka bean. This is a fantastic fragrance. I've promoted it in many lists that I've talked about. And I think it's one of those, this one actually came from Russia when they were kind of sparse, but right now you can get this at FragranceNet. I will list, just like I always do in my list videos, in the comments below so that you can check this out. It is basically a $22 fragrance, 75 ml bottle. It's the largest size that they make. I have a backup bottle of this that tells you how much I like it and how often that I use it. I'm actually wearing it today, and that's why it takes my number 6 spot. We're down to my top 5 gourmand fragrances for men for all seasons. This one is a Hugo Boss fragrance. It is in the scent line of fragrances. I really enjoy this fragrance as well as its counter absolute. It is Private Accord. The Menenka Fruit twins is the way that I think of the scent Private Accord and the scent Absolute. This one is a bit more chocolatey. So it has that wonderfully attractive, dusty, edible Menenka fruit as well as cocoa powder or cacao or chocolate. So it's got a bit of a chocolate edge to it. Fantastic gourmand fragrance. Now this one does wear much better in colder weather than it does in hot weather. And it's one of those type of fragrances that has that bit of masculine ardor to it, but it has that built-in edible sweetness that is extremely attractive if you like sweet fragrances. Hugo Boss The Scent Private Accord is not only accessible in terms of cost, it's extremely affordable, but it's one of the best The Scent flankers out there, and that's why it comes in at number 5. Coming in at number 4 is a relatively new scent to the scene. It is very masculine, sweet gourmand fragrance by Jean-Paul Gaultier that has just a bit of the Le Male kind of edge to it, and that is Scandal Pour Homme. I don't necessarily dig the crown. I'm not really, even though my last name is King, it's kind of cheesy. I don't know. It's this one is probably one of the least cheesy, similar to Dolce & Gabbana's K. Not so much digging on the presentation itself, but the fragrance is excellent in my book. This is an extremely smooth, sexy blend of caramel. There's vetiver, clary sage, and tonka bean, pretty much. Relatively simplistic DNA, but it's extremely attractive. Again, very sexy. This is a date night must own in my estimation, and that's why it comes in at number 4. Scandal Pour Homme by Jean-Paul Gaultier. All right, guys, we're down to my top 3 gourmand fragrances for men for all seasons. This is another newcomer to the scene, so I don't have a listing down below that is for a discounter. It's still at department stores, but in my estimation, even at the price that it's going for, it's very well worth it. It is in the Bad Boy line of fragrances by Carolina Herrera, the notable Lightning Bolt, and this one is Cobalt. Bad Boy Cobalt is one of the best creative ideas for a blue fragrance in the past several years. I really like the combination of black plum and black truffle. Now, it doesn't say it has black truffle in it, it's just this truffle, but in my estimation, if it has black plum, it's likely got black truffle, which is one of the more popular. It has kind of an edge of chocolate feel to it, but it definitely has the blue overtones that you're used to in the blue genre of fragrances. It smells very different. Now, this one isn't an overly sweet fragrance. What gives it its hyper versatility, you can wear it in any occasion, whether it's a professional day, whether you're going to the office, or whether you're kicking it at the house and you just want something to kind of spruce up your masculine funk. This will do it in a very creative way. Probably the best Bad Boy flanker right now in my book is Bad Boy Cobalt by Carolina Herrera, and that's why it comes in as number 3. Coming in at number 2 is a fragrance that almost took my number 1 spot, but number 1 is just a bit better, a bit stronger. This one is a close runner-up. It is by Salvatore Ferragamo, the very well-known Uomo. The claim to fame of Uomo is tiramisu, and the reason that people love and order tiramisu at fine dining establishments everywhere is because of a very creamy cheese, similar to cream cheese, called mascarpone. There's eggs, there's other things that make up this ingredients to tiramisu and makes it such a wonderful ingredient in a gourmand fragrance for men, and it's no wonder that tiramisu goes so well with coffee. The flanker to this, which is Signature, Uomo Signature, has a very nice coffee note in it that pairs extremely well with tiramisu. Now, this happens to be an eau de toilette fragrance, but it wears like an eau de parfum. It's got really great performance and body to it. That's why Salvatore Ferragamo Uomo came in as my number 2 gourmand fragrance for all seasons. All right, guys, we're down to my number 1. The number 1 fragrance that I feel is just extremely versatile, can be worn in all seasons, wears extremely well, lasts an extreme. The performance of this fragrance is absolute beast. It's one of the best fragrances by Giorgio Armani's subsidiary Emporio Armani, and the best flanker in the line thus far, Stronger With You, absolutely. This is absolutely one of the must-own gourmand fragrances for men if you are a lover of gourmand fragrances and sweet fragrances. It's an epic combination of rum, elemi resin, davana, glazed chestnut, patchouli. Everything that you love about the Stronger With You DNA is embedded in Stronger With You absolutely. It's given such a booster shot of that DNA that, again, to me, it is the best flanker in the Stronger With You line by far than any of the others, including Intensely, which before this came out, Intensely was my favorite. Best utilized, of course, in colder weather, as are most gourmand fragrances, but can be worn pretty much anytime. Gourmand fragrances that are sweet can be definitely worn more casually, but there are some, including Cobalt can be utilized in the professional or upscale arena, as well as Scandal Pour Homme, Private Accord. Really, all of these can be utilized in an upscale kind of way, with the exception of the more sweet, like Favignana, Absolutely, and Uomo. Well guys, that's it for my top 7 Gourmand fragrances for men for all seasons. If you own any of these, let me know what your experience is like, and if you feel like there are other Gourmand fragrances out there that belong in this list or expand on the list, let me know what those are as well. Thanks so much though for stopping by, and as always, thank you so much for your support on my channel. I'm Tommy with Studio Sense, and I'll see you tomorrow.